All right, everybody, close your mouths and open your ears because I'm Rob.
I'm John.
And I'm
And
Cody.
all right, there we go. And we are the three random millennials.
I'm Batman.
All right, guys, welcome down to the Three Random Millennials podcast, formerly known as the So Yeah podcast, with us, your host, the Three Random Millennials, also known as Rob, John, and Cody, the podcast where we talk about all things media and the hot topics surrounding them. And we are back after our season break, kicking off season 2 appropriately with part 2 of our Batman series. Part 1 was released exactly 1 year ago from the time this episode's being published, more or less, at least by the month anyway. For part 1, though, we discussed the Mask of Phantasm and the animated series, and for this part 2, we'll be discussing the franchise far less pleasing to the overall fan base, the 90's Batman films. But yeah, guys, I would compare this franchise to the old 80s Superman franchise because, like, think about this. Superman's first movie was in 1978, but since everything else came out in the 80s, it's called the 80s franchise. And Batman's first film was in 89, but the rest were in the 90s, so it's called the 90s franchise. They each have 4 films. The first 2, I'd say, were arguably good, followed by 2, I would say, inarguably bad ones. What do y'all think about that?
I mean,
Mm.
I feel like the first one was pretty good. The second one was okay. Third one a little less okay, but okay none the same. And then it just drove off a cliff with the fourth one.
I think I enjoyed the first two. The second two I tried to burn out of my memory most of the time.
Now, are y'all referring to Superman or the Batman?
Batman.
Okay.
Batman.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I
Superman sucked. Superman sucked. We don't
Hey,
talk about
hey,
him on his podcast. You keep it.
hey, hey.
you got Cody curling up, man.
You know who wins in the fight.
Yeah.
Yes, Superman in every
Super
category.
Superman to an extent.
Yeah, I have only seen the Superman films 3 and 4 like once, and I've seen all of the Batman films from the 90's, despite them being controversial. I've seen them multiple times, so much so I could probably quote a couple of them. But let's go ahead and get into our discussion tonight, guys. Once again, these films were the first to attempt at a serious take on the Batman franchise since the comic books first came out. You know, you had the Adam West stuff in the 60s, but that was, goofy comic book well, beyond comic book stuff. This is the first film where we see a real dark and a broody take. We see one that's a lot more of an acid trip, but I think they all had PG-13 ratings. So this was what started Batman off, and I think a lot of superhero films off on a more serious approach. And that being said,
Actually, I think Batman '89 was PG because I don't think PG-13 existed yet.
oh really?
I think.
Well, it might have been it might have been one of the first to get to PG because PG-13 happened because of Temple of Doom. So when did Temple of Doom come out?
Mm, Actually, no. I think '89 would have been after Temple of Doom, then, wouldn't it?
Oh, it's very easy. We can look it up online.
If only we had something to do that on.
PG-13 is what it
Oh, it
has
was.
listed.
Oh, okay.
Well, either way, we're looking at the serious versions of these films, guys, and we're going to start off with Batman '89, written by Sam Hamm, it's a great name, and directed by Tim Burton, and starring, of course, Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson and Kim Basinger, whatever, Jack Palance, Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent, and Michael Gough or whatever his name is as Alfred Pennyworth, the really
You got to
underused
have
butler.
more. You got to have more phlegm in your throat when you see his last name.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was well received by both the critics and the audience, made a lot of money. Warner Brothers was quite happy with Tim Burton. It was also probably 10 years in the making. And before we open up fully about our discussion with this movie, guys, we have some fun facts for you that John's going to spew real quick.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if it'll be quick, but some things we could maybe discuss. Online, I found out that Robin Williams almost played the Joker, which is kind of shocking to me.
He begged to play that
Might have
part.
been, yeah. I think say I would be kind of, I don't know. He might have went a little over the top. I mean, we know later on that he could kind of go with serious roles. So maybe him transitioning from his silliness to being angry and aggressive, like the Joker needs to be, might have been a good placement for him. I don't know.
Well, Hollywood kind of screwed him because they, the studio wanted Jack Nicholson like from the start. And when Jack Nicholson turned them down, they actually offered the role to Robin Williams as a scare tactic to get him to say, oh, okay, fine, I'll do that. Because they offered it to him. He said yes. And then Jack Nicholson took the bait and they instantly withdrew their offer from Robin and gave it back to Nicholson. Like they just dangled a carrot to get Nicholson's attention. So he got that role because the studio manipulated both him and Robin Williams in the process.
That's dirty pool.
Well, that's showbiz, my friend.
I'm not going to hit you with too many of these things. I know that I'm Batman almost didn't make it into the film, which I thought would have been kind of disappointing if we never had that.
Because he's Batman, he has to introduce himself. Shoot, like just a
Right,
handshake, if anything.
Commissioner Gordon was supposed to have a bigger role, which probably wouldn't have helped much because I didn't like the actor who played him.
I hardly even saw the actor who played him.
Yeah, it's probably for the best. He's not one of our Commissioner Gordons. And I saw one point online that Tim Burton really did not like the Prince song or Prince in general. And they didn't like the song they used for the 89 Batman, which is mostly forgettable.
Yeah, that being said, I've forgotten it. I don't even know which song it was. The only Prince song I know is Purple Rain.
Yeah, he had a song in there when he's messing up the museum and everything. So.
Oh, that was the Prince song?
Yeah, that song.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. That whole scene just was kind of dumb. If you ask me, it wasn't just the song; it was the whole scene. I mean, like it was funny, but it didn't really help get the story going at all. John, Cody, was this? Obviously we're all big Batman fans here. Was this y'all's first film that y'all saw from the '90s franchise?
Yes, it was. As a matter of fact, I think I've said this in another podcast before, but if legend is true, that this is actually one of the first movies I ever saw in theaters. Came out in '89. I was born in '90, so I don't see how that's possible. But my parents seem to remember or swear up and down that they took me to see Batman '89, and I'm just imagining a newborn baby in the midst of Batman '89. I can't see it, but my earliest memories, I do remember this is really one of the first introductions to Batman. This is the animated series were my first introductions to Batman. So
your story is so much cooler than mine. My first film, I was, I think, just over a year old, and it was Sleepless in Seattle because Jurassic Park had come out at the same time, and my dad wanted to go see it, and my mom thought it'd be too scary for me. So while Dad went to go see Jurassic Park, Mom took me with her to go see Sleepless in Seattle. So my very first film in a theater, I'm afraid to say, was old Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan at it again.
At least it was Tom Hanks, man.
Yeah, at least it was Tom Hanks. But John, what about you? Was this your first film in the franchise?
I don't know. I think there was a story that my parents left me at home because I would have only been like 2 or 3 at the time, and that I would have probably cried and screamed too much, which is what I did apparently when I went to see Jurassic Park.
My mom may have been onto something then.
Yeah. I know I've seen it, but I kind of feel like I may have saw the animated movie first. I'm quite sure about it, but I do remember seeing it when I was young enough to not crying and scream at stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry to say that it was not my first from the 90s franchise. My first was Batman Forever. I don't remember knowing much about this movie up until the buzz from The Dark Knight became a thing because I wanted to watch Jack Nicholson's Joker just to compare it to Heath Ledger's because even though I hadn't seen it yet, his performance was still being so pre-hyped up. And so I watched it, and as a teenager, I didn't love it. I enjoyed Nicholson's performance, but I really didn't get the rest of it. I've since watched bits and pieces of it on YouTube uh, as an adult, and I get it a bit better than I did. But anyway, the three main points that we're going to cover from all of this, we're going to discuss what worked, what didn't work, who our favorite performance was, and also what we think could have been a little bit better. Now, for history, John, you had mentioned to me that people were not excited to see Michael Keaton on screen as the Batman.
Yeah, I just now heard this. Didn't really know much about it, but apparently they were kind of upset about him being Batman because of his build. He didn't look, kind of muscular like a superhero character. And from what I remember from the article, they were upset because of his role with Mr. Mom. Cody, do you know much more about it?
From what I understand, part of it was his build, but it was Michael Keaton was most famous at the time for Mr. Mom, so he kind of had this image of like this quirky, funny, family man, dramedy guy, and not a serious, noir detective superhero. Like it would be like I don't know, it'd be like the equivalent of like someone like Steve Carell getting cast as Batman nowadays. And it's just like, what? What do you mean he's Batman? So I think that was kind of the sentiment at the time. That was all he was really famous for. He'd probably done other work, serious work, but what he was known for at the time was Mr. Mom and things like that. So that's kind of the image that people thought of. And they thought of the guy that played Mr. Mom in a bad Batman outfit, basically.
The article I read said that Warner Brothers studio had received some 50,000 letters complaining about the choice of Michael Keaton.
Yes.
So,
They had nothing better
back
to
then,
do.
all the comic book nerds were a little bit different back then. They were built different.
Yeah, they wouldn't leave their mom's basement unless they were pissed off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nah, but it's a well-known fact that comic actors often pull from the darkness in their hearts and to make their comedy work. But that being said, since they have that darkness, like we've seen them, they can do those serious, brooding roles if given a chance. But audiences have the annoying tendency to be fickle and just never learn from it because now they can't wait to see Mr. Mom reprise his role in The Flash. I'm just like, dude, whatever.
And Cody, I think at the time the comic was starting to take the darker tone that it would. And I think comic book fans were a little upset that they have this comedy actor fixing to reprise the role or come as the role of Batman. Wasn't that it too? Because wasn't the comics getting pretty dark in the late 80s?
Well, so what was happening is like it actually started in the 70s, I want to say, with the writer Denny O'Neil. He started to take Batman back to his more serious roots. He removed a lot of the camp. He basically did to the comics what the animated series did to Batman television, where he took it back to serious storytelling and things like that. But what really, and it was like, again, it was serious storytelling and it was dramatic and more grounded. But what really kind of pushed Batman down that darker route was in the 80s, the little comic that no one really knows about. It's a niche comic called The Dark Knight Returns, by some no-name writer like Frank something or other, and just surprisingly, it just picked up, and everybody all of a sudden loved a dark and gritty Batman.
Was that the one about the old Batman?
Yes, that's Frank Miller. It's that, and then coinciding with that, I think around the similar time, another really dark Batman story came out. It was The Killing Joke by Alan Moore.
Yes.
That came out, and then The Dark Knight Returns also came out, and it kind of, I think that between that and what was already happening starting in the 70s with Denny O'Neil and the mainstream comics, I think those three events kind of like catalyzed the public consciousness idea of Batman going forward. That kind of cemented it forever because even now, this is what we think of when we think of Batman. And we don't really think a whole lot about like the Adam West days, which actually were very similar to the comics. It was just very similar to like the Golden and Silver Age comics, which were sillier.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get into it, guys. Our main topics for our first film, the '89 Batman series. What do we think worked with this movie?
Well, I do like the foreboding atmosphere. I like the dark aesthetic that Tim Burton established. And Jack Nicholson did a great job as a Joker. I mean, he only had was it Cesar Romero? Is that how his name? I think
Caesar
he
Romero.
only had Cesar Romero. He only had him as a reference prior to this in the comic books, and he did a good job of trying to create a Joker that was memorable. And he was definitely funny, but also very dark in the same way. And I think the story played out well in the actual movie itself. I didn't like some of the actors that were cast in it, but it is what it is. The movie did really well. It didn't have much to work off of, and I am very glad that they didn't approach it trying to copy that '60s golden era Batman Adam West foolishness.
And Cody?
I really liked again, Michael Keaton was actually a really good choice as Batman. He may be controversial, maybe not, but I feel like he does a better Batman voice than Christian Bale did in the later Batman series. Like, I don't know, it just didn't sound like he was gargling with like dental floss or something when he was talking. There's a grit to it, but there wasn't like it wasn't a try hard grit. There was like just a natural grit to it.
It's a fair
I feel
point.
like so I did like his Batman. The atmosphere, as John brought out, was beautiful. It was flawless nearly. It was fantastic. And it was supported by the score. I love the score. Danny Elfman, God bless that man. He just created the theme to end all themes. Like there's even the Nolan films are not able to escape the specter of the original Batman theme. Like it's just so massive. So it was that contributed. And I did like Jack Nicholson's Joker. He was good. I think he did a good job of balancing like the jokester or trickster elements of the character, but also like the sinister, murderous psychopath. He did a decent balance of both. Jack Nicholson always looks like, you could say something wrong and he could just eviscerate you for it. Like he just typically just looks like that way. So when you slap the crazy clown makeup on him, it just works.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand why the studios wanted him so bad for Joker because, I mean, he looks like the Joker even without the makeup on.
Yeah. Yeah, what worked for me also was the performances. Michael Keaton proved all the naysayers wrong, and Nicholson was just being himself, and as always, did a great job of it. All in all, the performances captured the essence of the dark tones that I think that Tim Burton was going for. And again, the atmosphere, I feel like Batman is best portrayed whenever it's a bit more dark and noir and the slight comic book tones like that. That I think is the best way to portray Batman. I don't think it was perfect, but I think it was well done. And going ahead and getting into the performance of Nicholson too, the Joker is the ultimate villain, and I feel that while all the performances were good, the portrayal of the Joker can make or break a Batman film. And despite the roles all being done well in this movie, it was Jack Nicholson who glued it all together. God, I hate that word. And I'm certain that it would have fallen apart if his role hadn't worked. So yeah, I feel like performance was good and also quintessential to the success of the film. That being said, what do we think didn't work about the movie?
There wasn't much I disliked in this movie, to be honest with you. It's one of my favorite 90s Batman movie, if you want to call it that, since it was '89. But There were some Joker moments I didn't care too much for. I didn't care too much for the museum thing. The parade was okay. It wasn't bad. Uh, I think really the only complaint I can find in the movie is I hate Michael Gow as Alfred. He brings nothing to the film to me other than he was Alfred for all four of them, despite everyone else being recast.
Yeah,
I really feel that he needed to be more of a father figure, like Alfred is portrayed in all of my favorite Batman series,
yeah,
and have a personality that, I can spit out some knowledge, but if you mess with me, you might end up finding out my true past.
yeah, yeah.
Like he could actually stand a chance in a fight, like all the other Batman Alfreds that are portrayed.
For real, yeah. And Cody,
I would say I didn't mind Michael Gough as much. I mean, I get that he's not like most portrayals of Alfred. I feel like my biggest gripe with this film and with this, I can't remember, mainly with this film, is that Batman kills, like unequivocally, like he kills people in this film. And like Batman's no kill rule, his no kill code is so quintessential to the character. And it's just like you get so much right about Batman, but you got like this one really big piece wrong. I don't know, I feel like for the sake of an exciting couple set pieces. But you know, that's just my biggest gripe for me because like I really like one of the most interesting aspects about Batman is that he has that code. And so, you know, to get into this Batman film that gets the atmosphere right and the visuals pretty good and the score right and all the stuff, and you're in it and you're invested, and it's like watching a moving Batman comic, and then all of a sudden Batman throws a dude out of like a 8-story bell tower to his obvious death and then kills Joker pretty directly. It's just kind of just like, oh what? Why is he killing people? And then it's also like a little bit inconsistent because in the factory when he first fights Jack Nicholson and he bounces the bullet back to his face with this little gauntlet thing, he falls into the vat, and Batman tries to save him and pull him out of the vat. But by the end of this film, he's killing this man and killing his minions, and so it's just like, well, which is it? Does he value the lives of these criminals or does he not? So you know, it just kind of it creates a lot of not a lot, but it creates some inconsistencies for me that I feel hold the film back from being like the ultimate Batman movie.
yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the, like in the beginning, he didn't know that Jack Napier was the guy who killed his parents. And spoiler alert, at the end, he figured out that Jack Napier was the guy who killed his parents. Like, wouldn't isn't it kind of trying to portray that, you know, oh, well, he's angrier now than he was, so he's just plowing through these people because now he's ticked off at him?
I mean, maybe, but I don't know. It's I feel like Batman, like we equate vengeance with Batman, but he's not really like revenge. I feel like I don't know. The character has more discipline than that. Even if he does, there have been moments in the comics because in the comics it was not Jack Napier, it wasn't the Joker. Obviously, it was just some random thug named Joe Chill. And so there have been several comic issues where he's found Joe Chill, and he did not kill Joe Chill, despite the fact that this is the man that is the source of all of his woes and who essentially galvanized him to become Batman. So I don't know. For me, it just kind of threw it off. But I understand why some people aren't as bothered by it.
Yeah.
I could say that I forgot to mention that. I mean, you hit the point too. I could grumble that I wasn't too fond, especially when I became more understanding of Batman lore. I didn't like them making Jack Napier as Batman's parents' killer, because I think it kind of it gave too much story to the Joker.
I agree.
The Joker doesn't need a story. He's just crazy.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Agreed.
To make him that essential makes him too human. You don't want the Joker to appear to be too human. Um, excuse me. What didn't work for me was Michael Uslan, if I'm saying that right, who was one of the earliest people to get involved with the movie's development, like 10 years before that, and Tim Burton were both into the idea of making a more serious, dark side style of Batman, but and this is going to probably, tick a lot of folks off. I felt like I wasn't watching a truly serious Batman movie. Like it definitely felt dark, and it definitely had Tim Burton's like noir gothic tonnage, but it still felt deeply entrenched in its comic book roots. Like it still felt like I was watching a cartoon in a lot of places. It never felt truly serious. It just felt like a dark cartoon. I also wasn't a fan of how minimalist the plot was. I know that a minimalist plot can work sometimes, and many will argue that the point of Batman is the mystery and not the feels. And I agree with that, but with a character as dynamic as Batman, I've always felt that he needed a more dynamic plot line, especially in a live action epic. And even The Mask of Phantasm, which was neither of those things, had, in my opinion, a more meatier plot. I didn't care about Bruce Wayne, which is a tale as old as time flaw that almost all of the Batman films have, once again, in my opinion. I didn't feel suspense from the Joker's plan. I was just enthralled by the performance more than the person. Just all in all, I did not find the story involving at all.
I mean, I understand. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I've stated this before, but I feel like a lot of people share that sentiment. I feel like we've kind of come a long ways and kind of come from the opposite direction with that, where now it's just like people are almost ashamed that Batman is a comic book character. So for me, like watching this, I appreciated the fact that it still kind of felt like just a dark comic book or a dark cartoon. I appreciated that aspect of it. Because you're acknowledging the source of where these stories come from. And I kind of understand what you mean. I feel like you can still have an affecting story that's about the mystery with Batman. Once again, I direct everyone's attention to Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Cody. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. It's just because, it kind of proves it bears that out because there are some very villain-centric episodes, but there's also some very, very good, meaty mystery stories that involve Bruce Wayne, Batman, what makes him Batman and why he's doing this and how that contributes to him figuring the case out. So, it can be done. It is just you really need to put your nose to the grindstone and work it out to make the pieces fit together. But it is possible.
Yeah, I do agree. Like, I wasn't trying to say, Cody, that I was ashamed or didn't like the idea of staying somewhat true to the comic book roots. Like, because again, The Mask of Phantasm was the ultimate animated Batman film, and that did feel like it was a comic book, but they still managed to make it serious and dark. So I guess what I'm saying is, I felt like this did not blend comic book and serious well, even though their goal was to make it serious. Like, I felt like it was all comic book and no seriousness. I'm not trying to say that I don't want it to resemble the comic book. The best way to portray Batman is to be somewhat true to the comic. I just want to clarify that.
Oh yeah, no, I get you. I know what you're saying because there are elements that are, especially from a modern perspective, a bit goofy. The scene where he has like the Vicky Vale. He has the reporter there in the art museum. Like it did highlight that Joker is just crazy, which I think was the point of that scene, is just to show you this guy is for loco. He's out of his mind. But it did get a bit too goofy. And there's a couple moments like that throughout the film where it got real goofy. And then like the parade where Joker pulls out that revolver, that's like as long as his leg. But in like the previous scenes, he was walking normally when he really should be walking like he has a peg leg. If there's a gun that big shoved down his pants.
Yeah, I'm compelled to agree with you on that one.
I feel like it might have been a little bit of commercialism that caused it too, because they wanted to keep kind of the humor and campiness in there to keep it more appealing to everyone. And it might have been a symptom of it being from the 80s too. Who knows?
Just that
Also,
campiness, yeah.
and like I said, someone in the group might have also been still trying to imitate the campiness from the 60s Batman, I think, as well.
Trying to gently drift away from it, yeah.
Yeah. You can also see the commercialism in the choice of using Prince in one of the songs for
Yeah.
the movie itself. So
Definitely. Well, that being said, it's kind of helping us move into our next question here is, guys, what do we think could be improved with this film?
I don't know, man. It's hard for me to really go and judge a movie back from the 80s era. I mean, because like I've already said, the only previous live action Batman they had to go on was the 60s Batman, and didn't they have one in the 40s or something that was like black and white?
They did. I saw it. It actually wasn't bad for the 40s. Like, it was a pretty decent depiction of Batman for the time.
Yeah, but
It was like a 40 movie serial.
Yeah.
yeah, that's exact. But I can't sit here and really coach them on how to change a movie that was made in '89 when it had nothing else to work on, and you also had to worry about them worrying about what was going to appeal to the public and stuff. And I'm usually biased because I usually like Tim Burton movies usually. So I'm not going to say much about what I think they could have improved in it, other than like I've already mentioned before, I really did not want Joker's backstory to be that he was the killer of Batman's parents.
Well, that's a humble answer, but just FYI, this question come with every single movie, so I hope you have something to
trust me,
bring.
I have plenty more on the other ones.
Okay, all right. Very good. Cody, how about you, sir? Are you as humble as John, or are you going to take a higher and mightier stance?
Higher and mightier. I see John's point, and it is a fair point. If I was to make any improvements to the film, just sitting aside as a hypothetical, I am not critiquing Tim Burton or any of those guys at all. And this is completely with the benefit of hindsight. But if anything, I agree with John. Like, I understand like the thought behind it. You want to give like a personal grievance between these two antagonistic characters. That's classic movie storytelling. Give the characters personal stakes in the final conflict. Make them like truly hate each other. That is like movie making 101 for good guys and bad guys. But the Joker is just, again, he is chaotic. So my one thing would be like, you could kind of kill two birds with one stone because very few films highlight the fact that Batman is the world's greatest detective. And the Joker is just a never-ending mystery. And so you could you kind of highlight Batman's detectiveness by him trying to look into this criminal who he knocked into a vat and not be able to find anything on this man other than the fact he was a criminal that just showed up to work for these crime families one day. And that just kind of be like a point of contention for him that never gets resolved through the film, just to kind of keep the Joker a little spookier and kind of unnerve you and show that even though Batman's a competent detective, he cannot figure out where this thing came from. And so, and then of course just kind of cutting back on some of the goofier elements, not getting rid of them, but maybe like toning down some of the goofier elements of the film. That's about it for me.
Yeah.
For this one anyways.
Yeah. My answer to this question would be, I would say take a little focus off of the darkness and put a bit more emphasis on tugging on the old heartstrings. Like, make it impossible for us to not care about what happens next. Like we have no choice but to care about your story. Like, that can be done. Tim Burton can do it. I've seen him do it. We all have, but he didn't do it for this one. Once again, to our listeners, in my humble opinion. So we've answered that question. Now, guys, it's time for our final question. Let's rate Batman 1989. Now, again, to all of our new listeners, our rating system goes, we each go 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the greatest. We then add up the 3 votes and give it a 1 out of 30 rating. So, Cody, could you rate Batman 89 for us, 1 out of 10?
I'll give it a solid 8. It is a strong 8.
Any explanation why, or just kind of go off what you already said?
I mean, if I said why it was an 8, I'd kind of be repeating myself with like a couple of my critiques for the film. It captures the atmosphere of Batman really, really well. It just falls short with some slightly goofy elements, goofier than comics. And the fact that Batman kills is just that by itself brings it down a whole point for me personally.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. So, but it's still a solid. Doesn't It takes away from the film, but it doesn't stop me from enjoying a really well made Batman film for what it was.
All right. John, 1 out of 10, sir.
7.5 because it set the bar for where Batman needed to go, and it tried to keep the campiness down, but it was still kind of there. So, but it was still a good movie, and it was a Tim Burton movie, so I appreciated that.
All right. Well, here comes the unpopular vote. My rating is going to be 6 out of 10, and that's based a lot off of the Joker. But again, I'm just not a fan of the story. I feel like it had a chance to be good. They could have made a small story work, but they didn't. Not as far as I'm concerned. So 6 out of 10. So that's going to be 21.5 out of 30. So that's still a pretty good rating from us, the three dork nobodies whose opinion doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, the rating
it's like an IOU. You can take that to the bank.
Exactly. Our podcast stands or rating for the 89 Batman film is 21 out of 10. So good job, 89 Batman. Now it's time for our next topic here, guys. We're going into 1992 with the 89 Batman sequel, Batman Returns, once again directed by Tim Burton and written by, who wrote this one? Actually, Tim Burton and Daniel Waters and Wesley Strick, if I'm reading that right. Tim Burton, his leash was let go by the Warner Brothers because he said that he wouldn't make the film if they didn't let him go. So they did, and he presented us with an even grittier version than the first. And it again stars Michael Keaton reprising his role as Batman. We have Michelle Pfeiffer playing Catwoman. We have Christopher Walken, the Christopher Walken playing Max Schreck. And again, Michael Gough as Alfred Pennyworth, and Danny DeVito as Oswald Cobblepot, also known as the Penguin. So, John, hit us with some fun facts about the 89 Batman, sir. Or the Batman Returns, sir. Sorry.
One of my favorite ones is I did not realize that Michelle Pfeiffer actually took training to use the whip, and she's actually the person using it. It's not a stunt double or anything.
Oh, that's really cool.
So she really put effort into it. I think the next funny one is that animal rights groups protested the use of penguins in the movie.
They'll always find something to complain about.
Especially the fact they didn't want them out of Antarctica, but also the fact that they had stuff strapped to them.
They do realize that there are penguins that live in freaking Brazil, right? Like, penguins do not equal snow necessarily. Just calm down, people.
I think the contraptions that the prop department put on them was more what upset them, though.
Listen, if you'll humiliate your dog and put a Christmas sweater, I'm going to strap a bomb to my penguin, okay? I'm sorry.
That's fair.
I like how Cody said that's fair. Bomb versus Christmas sweater. Yeah, a bomb's fine.
Danny Elfman wrote one of the iconic themes in Batman Returns on a plane. So it was amazing, too, the theme he did in there. But it's funny that he just kind of did it in a hurry on a plane.
It's crazy how some of the best ideas are ideas that just sprung from nothing. I play golf because I'm just a freaking white guy, and one of my favorite courses was actually it stemmed from someone's doodle on a napkin. Some of the best ideas sprang from just a nothing incident that just, hey, that's a good idea, and it became a classic. What else you got, John? Anything?
I got a couple more. This one, I was actually, it could have worked. I know he would have been a unique Robin. But they almost cast Marlon Wayans as Robin.
I did hear about that, actually.
Yeah. that would have been a little bit different. I mean, of course, Robin was not even in this movie, but it would have been interesting if they would have involved him in some kind of way, because he probably would have been a funny Robin, because Marlon Wayans is going to be funny, and I don't know if we want that in a Batman movie, but it would have still been interesting to have him in that movie.
The studio at first tried to force Tim Burton to make a place for him in the script, which he agreed to, but as time went by, they kind of 86 the idea, and just everybody just wiped their brow, because he's like, that's you're overcrowding the script, my friends.
Also, one last silly thing is apparently McDonald's, they made toys, Happy Meal toys for Batman Returns, and they were really upset that the Penguin had black saliva, because it was not going to look the most kid friendly, and it also was really hard for them to put on the little figure they gave for the Penguin.
Well, that was their fault, because McDonald's didn't even know what was in the film. They just signed on and assumed that everything was going to be fine. Nobody asked any questions about the film, its rating, its content. They just signed away. That was entirely on them for being irresponsible.
Well, here's the thing. It's the early 90s, and PG-13 movies and rated R movies are getting toy tie-ins for kids still.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
And
Terminator. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and you think about it, because McDonald's ain't going to make no toys for any show that's any higher than a PG now.
No, yeah.
So it's funny that they had toys for PG-13 movies, of course.
That is funny.
And one last thing, and then we're done. The scene where Michelle Pfeiffer has a bird in her mouth, that was a real bird.
Oh, are you serious?
Yep, and it wasn't even sedated.
Dang, man, that's some dedication to your character right there.
Yeah, I think before we even start rating stuff, she should at least get a 10 for all the effort she put into it.
Well, you know what? She and Danny's performance are actually a topic of conversation for this one, so we'll definitely get into that a little bit more. All right, so what is y'all's history with this film? Anything fun we should know about?
Not as interesting as my Batman 89. I remember my parents definitely did not take me to the movie theater to see this one. I remember seeing it when I was older, not a teenager, but I don't know, 8, 9. I remember thinking as a kid, I think it was one of the first times I noticed as a kid that a story actively got darker. It was this story and Empire Strikes Back, where my brain actively began to acknowledge that a continuing story with the continuing characters got darker. And I was just like, they can do that?
Yeah. I remember the first time that I watched a monster movie where I saw a lady character get eaten. I'm like, Dad, I thought you told me that ladies didn't die in the monster movies. Like, well, I lied, son.
Yeah.
John, what about you? Anything fun?
It probably took me a while to see this one, because I don't think I saw it as a kid, but I developed nostalgia for it because my sister had the Batman Returns Super Nintendo game, which was really good. It was a beat 'em up, and it did not follow the story at all, but I mean, it was still a fun game, and it tried to copy that Tim Burton aesthetic that was established in this. So, when I did go to see the movie, I had a little bit of a bias because I love the Batman Returns video game for Super Nintendo.
Nice. All right.
Commercialism worked.
Yep. Well, again, guys, let's get into our questions about this film. Once again, this was well received by critics, and more recently has been well received by the audience. In fact, it's now considered by many to be one of the best Batman films ever made. But at the time, it most certainly was not considered that. We had, full-on hour-long news specials, folks talking about how it was so wrong of them to make a Batman film this dark and still try to market it for kids. We had kids who had obviously been coached by their parents to give these long speeches about how the film took advantage of kids, and it was so laughable to see these trained monkeys performing for their parents. But guys, before we get too too deep into that, what do we think worked with this film, Batman Returns?
I like Danny DeVito as the Penguin. I think he was the best Penguin that's ever been portrayed, and that maybe they'll get some hate or not, but I think he really brought some terrifying elements to the Penguin, because typically the Penguin is portrayed as kind of a gangster character that's just kind of portly and likes to be in cold areas with water. But I think he made the Penguin pretty terrifying, and he really, really, really got into his role for it. And Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, like I've already said in the fun facts, she really tried to put her all into this role. So I think that, they had a really good cast of villains. Then I go to Billy D. I just like Billy D because I'm biased. Lando Calrissian.
I thought he wasn't in part
him
two.
being he was for a small part, wasn't he, Cody? Actually, he was. Yeah, this is his first show up as Harvey Dent, wasn't he?
Now, his first show up was the
First
89.
I thought he
Okay, so he was in
showed up
89 as well.
briefly in 89, and I think he showed up again here because, like, I think Tim Burton was really trying to build up Two-Face.
I remember his presence being a lot more, especially in the opening scenes with Christopher Walken's character. And, I just like Christopher Walken, so his involvement was nice, even though he didn't play that big of a character. I enjoyed the Tim Burton aesthetic still in this film. And, like I said, I'm already biased. I like the Super Nintendo game, so I felt like it was a good movie to me. It was darker, so I appreciated that as well.
Yeah. And Cody, how about you, sir?
I think it was very good. Michelle Pfeiffer, again, like everyone's been saying, put in a really good performance. And Danny DeVito did a good job as like a creepy, terrifying villain. Like, it does steeply depart from how how Penguin was normally displayed or portrayed in the comics. But he does a good job as being this weird mutant man who deeply despises everyone and yet desperately wants to be a part of the group. So he did a very good job with that. He made a good villain. And of course, Michael Keaton turned in another pretty good performance, if a bit flatter, I feel, in this one for Bruce Wayne and Batman. It was okay. I feel like his performance in the '89 as Batman and Bruce Wayne was a bit better, but it is what it is. He did good. It's always nice to see Christopher Walken, but I'll touch more on him later. So yeah, I feel like some of the set pieces were cool, if a bit even more goofy.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. One of the Batmobiles actually used in the film are on display at an auto museum only about a half hour away from me, and I went there and saw it. It was really cool, and they also had either a replica of or also a one used in the film of the Penguin's duck at the same museum. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So what worked in the film for me was, like, apparently Tim Burton, like I said before, wanted a lot more creative freedom than was, like, that was his stipulation to making the sequel, was he wanted to have a lot more freedom to just be himself. And you can tell that he was given that freedom. Like, the film just oozed even more of his Burton-isms to an extreme, I say. Like, way more than a lot of the Burton films I've seen. Like he really pulled no punches with this one. Like, he was having fun. He was having fun being as dark as he possibly could be. And I liked it. Like, I liked that nothing was held back. Like, I liked that Batman actually hit and head-butted Catwoman and didn't just let her beat him up, and he, like, kicked her away one time. They fought each other, and that felt really good to see. Actual equality, just hero versus villain, and gender didn't matter. I loved that. What the comic books only ever hinted at, this movie actually showed, like it uncovered what the Batverse really looked like with the blood and the poisoning and how ugly the life of crime and the life of the vigilante that fights it can be. I really appreciated how this film just took a no holds barred take on it. That's what worked for me.
No rebuttals.
All right.
No, I pretty much agree with a lot of your points.
All right, cool. So now the question is, what do we think didn't work, guys?
All right. Here's what I did not like. I thought the penguin goons were a little bit silly. I mean, because we already got a pretty dark film, and then you got these penguins with rockets strapped to them. I mean, that's kind of what the heck was that about? Uh, while I love Danny DeVito and I love his portrayal of the penguin, I thought the child kidnapping plot was not did not remind me of what the penguin would normally do in any of the Batman comic books, because like I said, he's more or less a gangster. He's more concerned about financial things and kidnapping a bunch of children. It doesn't really fit into his MO normally, and there's not a lot of mystery to what he was doing. However, the penguin trying to become mayor, that does sound like something the real penguin would have did, but he kind of came off as more sadistic than a gangster. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just a true psychopath in this one. Cody?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like Danny DeVito put in a great performance, but that was not really the Penguin. I mean, I could never imagine at any point in the comics the Penguin just straight up sadistically biting a dude's nose off. And like you said, there's a ton of Burtonisms in this Batman movie, and it feels kind of like the Burtonisms were kind of overtaking the fact that this was a Batman film. And and there's just like a few there's like a few like kind of silly sequences, like the Penguin somehow gets the schematics to the Batmobile. Do we get an explanation on that? Am I not remembering correctly?
No,
I don't
no.
think we get an explanation.
I watched it today.
Yeah.
There was no explanation
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah, and then there's that whole sequence when he attaches the bomb to the bottom of the Batmobile, and in completely realistic fashion, Batman, a character with no super strength, punches through the floor of his Batmobile to remove the bomb. And so that was just like, what?
That's really reminiscent of the 60s thing where the strangest, most unrealistic crap always saves Batman at the last second. Yeah. They revisited the 60s with that one. Yeah.
And then like the whole thing with like the Penguin had his giant rubber ducky mobile was really goofy. And I gotta say, I might catch some flack for this, but Catwoman's origin story, she got thrown out of a window and got licked by a bunch of cats, and then she became Catwoman. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know.
That doesn't match her MO either, does it?
No, it doesn't make. She's not even a mystical character. She doesn't have superpowers. She's just a cat burglar.
I think
She's literally a cat burglar that just leaned into that motif 110%. That's it. And she's really smart. Those are the two things. Like none of her other origins involve like, I don't know, near-death experiences and mystical alley cats.
I think Tim Burton's problem is he wanted to build the villains to be bigger than what they were, but in reality, he could have just did a heist movie. That would have probably worked better than making them kind of stronger or like super villainish. They're more criminals that are trying to get money.
Yeah. And my final critique, as much as I love Christopher Walken, he could have been completely cut out of the film, and they could have really just given all of his parts to the Penguin and made the Penguin, and that would have made the Penguin more like the comic book Penguin. Like literally, he just exists so that Christopher Walken can have a role in this film.
He was a bit unnecessary. I'm not going to lie.
Practically useless. So, yeah. And that's it. That's my final critique. So,
I actually kind of liked how the penguins and all of the animals in here were a bit more sentient than reality allows for. Like, the penguins, it's suggested raised Oswald and how the cats just, the Selena's
Yeah.
love of cats just kind of caused this, mysterious, mystical thing to happen to make her who she was. I actually kind of liked that take, but that's just me. I liked how Tim Burton gave it more of a Disney fairy tale style to it. I appreciated it. That's just me though. But so what didn't work for me was, again, I just didn't feel the plot. I did find the characters, and by characters I mean the villains. I found their stories, their arcs to be a lot more involving. But the plot, and once again our protagonist, the Batman, just seemed to really be phoned in. I mean, I got what was happening, but again, it didn't resonate with me on an emotional level at all. No excitement, no wonder, no intrigue, just the tugs on your heart for, Selena Kyle and the appreciation of the tragedy of Oswald Cobblepot. That I felt. But again, the mystery and the battle between hero and villain and the protagonist's personal life, all of that also needs to be in the story, and that really fell short in this one. However, I will give a little bit of praise to Bruce and Selena's relationship. The scene at the ball where they both figure out, who the other person is. Like, he knows that she's Catwoman, and she knows that he's a Batman, and she says, "Oh my God, does this mean that we have to start fighting?" I felt that, which meant that the energy off of them as both lovers and masked enemies, that energy was somewhat there, but that's the closest the story came to being involving. So so once again, I just don't feel like Tim Burton in either film did a great job at presenting us with a story that really got you right in the feels. You just need a story that gets you right in the feels. He didn't do that for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like I said previously, I feel like Batman's role, or Michael Keaton, like the lines and the dialogue and the role for him was kind of phoned in. He was there because he had to be there. His name is on the title.
Yeah.
So they didn't really like, aside from the romance, they didn't really think of anything else to do for his character.
Yeah, they were definitely too reliant on his backstory from the first movie to write anything else for him.
Yeah.
I just, I don't know. That is a point I did not recognize because I was too overwhelmed by Danny DeVito being as amazing as he is.
Well, actually, now that you've said that, John, do we want to go in a little bit deeper into our opinions of DeVito and Pfeiffer's performance, or do you guys feel pretty satisfied with what you already said?
I think we've covered it pretty well, to be honest with you.
I'd actually would like to make a comment if I could, because I've always looked at Michelle Pfeiffer as the mom next door. Like, even whenever she was younger, and like, I'm not trying to say that as an insult. I'm just saying she gives off really strong mom vibes. So the fact that she pulled off this tortured, cunning temptress was a credit to her acting ability. Like, I felt like she did a great job of portraying the anti-hero. And when it comes to DeVito, I mean, yes, he usually is the funny man, but if you give him the proper bad guy role, which, I feel like this role was just made to be his proper bad guy role, then he'll kill it.
I think they could have, with Danny DeVito, if they would have taken a personality similar to, you remember his movie with Martin Lawrence, What's the Worst That Could Happen?
I've heard of it, but I never saw it.
It's a good movie, but if they would have taken a little bit more personality, that maybe at one time he was a legit businessman, but he was crooked and his crooked ways were coming out, I think that would have stayed true to the Penguin a little bit more. and he could have still played that role well.
Yeah. Agreeable. All right, guys. So it is once again time to rate this sucker. Cody, what is your rating for Batman Returns?
I feel like a 6.5, honestly. It's above average, but there are a couple things with the plot that are, even for a comic book movie, a bit silly, a bit goofy, and they just really didn't have as much interest in Batman, and it's obvious. And the Burtonisms kind of really ran away with this one. So I feel like it doesn't quite achieve the heights of its predecessor. Now it doesn't sink to the depths of its descendants, but it's still a solid film and watchable. But it can't. I don't know. It just doesn't quite. Like I've never felt a desire to go back and watch Batman Returns, even now. So, it's not that I despise it or I cringe at it. I have no desire to go back and watch it.
Yeah. And John?
I'm going to give a biased 7 for it because, like I said, I just have that good memory of it. Maybe that's, as a child, when your memory really starts kicking in and you start remembering stuff from then on, that's where I remember this one. So, in a sense, this is a little bit of the childhood Batman for me, especially since I played that Super Nintendo game too much.
No, that makes sense.
And I like Michelle Pfeiffer.
Very good. And, huh?
Does it make sense?
Yeah. Well, I'm actually going to join the ranks here with Cody, and I was also going to give it a 6.5 out of 10 because I did find the characters' stories to be a bit better. I thought the score was fantastic and the performances amazing. Especially Michelle Pfeiffer's portrayal of Catwoman. I mean, when I think of Catwoman, I think of someone that doesn't give off mom vibes, and yet here she was, the poster child for mom vibes, and she still pulled it off expertly. But I'm all about a good, emotionally involving story, and I didn't feel it. So I can only, give all those things that it had that its predecessor didn't have. I can only round it off to another half point. So 6.5 out of 10 for me, which means this film, actually, no, excuse me. This film actually gets 20 out of 30 total for this, for the Three Random Millennials podcast. So it's actually done 1% worse than it's 1 point worse than its predecessor, but still overall a pretty good rating. Now, guys, before we get into our next two films, we probably should stop and talk about how the controversy of Batman Returns, which we haven't really touched on too much, led to Tim Burton being ousted by Warner Brothers in favor of a director who they thought was going to give it a more family-friendly vibe. How do we feel about both this controversy and Tim Burton being ousted?
Honestly, to a certain extent, I understand the controversy because the film was noticeably darker. Like the first film was by no means a Disney movie, right? Like it had dark moments, it had gruesome moments. But there are some moments in the second film that were genuinely just like pretty intense. And, something that as a parent, I wouldn't necessarily be comfortable with my kids seeing. Um, like again, I go back to that scene where the penguin bit a dude's nose off. Like, I'm not, you know, I get it. This is a dark story and these are crazy people and there's going to be violent moments. But, I can't imagine being a parent and sitting with your kid and then seeing that on the screen and realizing that that image will now be burned into your child's brain into perpetuity. So I
Yeah.
get it. I feel like there's a little bit of overreaction. I feel like, if maybe they had kept him on, just told him, hey man, just like rein it in. Like, we're not saying don't be dark, we're not saying don't be serious, but like maybe don't do all the things you did in this film. Let's just reel it back a little bit.
Yeah, but the problem is
Oh,
that
okay. So
most studios have the tendency to knee jerk whenever the loud minority complains. That's the problem.
That's true.
I see what you're
hang on,
saying.
no,
So
no, no, no,
he
no.
got removed because of
hang on, I just want to specify because we're in 2023. I don't mean minorities. I mean the minority of people. To all of our sensitive listeners out there, just calm your stuff. He said.
You sure about that, brother?
He said, catching himself. Yes, I am sure, John.
Racist.
Well, no, I'm not gonna. I will not make a joke. I will not make a joke. All right, John. John, continue, sir. Continue, sir.
And that's how Robert got canceled.
Yeah, come at me, cancel culture. Come at me, I dare you.
No, I didn't know that was the controversy to it because I didn't look it up, to be honest with you, but it makes sense. Because I always, you know me, I always lean towards the business side of things. And back then, studios did not care about fandom or anything. They just wanted to see the dollars, the bills. And
what do you mean back then, John?
Well, I mean, they still do. They've been to the fandom a little bit now, but you know, back then it was like this movie will make a lot more money if it appeals to kids, and we could market it towards kids through toys and McDonald's. And so Tim Burton going darker makes it less marketable because parents are going to be angry. So I understand why they wanted to get him out of there, but I didn't want him out of there. I think I would have liked to seen what he would have did with Harvey Dent, Billy D. Williams in the next film. But we won't know that because now we have to deal with the Joel Schumacher crap.
Yep. Yeah, I'm on board with y'all. Like if only they didn't jerk their knee and just tell him to. Well, the thing is, Tim Burton has said in many interviews that they tried to say to him, "Well, how about you just tone it down some?" And he wasn't for it and walked out himself. That's how he's always told the story, was that they tried to talk him down, and he said that he stopped the meeting about a half hour in and said, "You guys just don't want me to make it, do you?" And he just kind of walked out at that point. So whether or not he walked out because he refused to tone it down or they were trying to gently push him out, we may never know for sure. But I do get why folks were offended. But to take it in the direction that we're about to discuss it being taken into did not need to happen either. So, yeah, we're all in agreement on that one. Let's move into it, guys. Let's move into the 1990 something or other. Part 3 to the Batman series, Batman Forever. Now, this takes quite a different turn from the Jim Carrey version, as we're now watching the reins being handed over to Joel Schumacher, the guy who I only have one film that he was involved with. It was...
You said Jim Carrey? What do you mean?
I said Joel Schumacher, didn't I?
No, prior to that, you said Jim Carrey.
You're referring to Tim Burton.
Oh, Tim Burton. Oh, I was like, hold up, what?
Oh, did I say that? Sorry, I'm already thinking about Jim Carrey as the Riddler in this movie. Anyway, it stars Val Kilmer now as Batman, as Michael Keaton did in fact drop out because he did not like Joel Schumacher's vision. Tommy Lee Jones as Harvey Dent, Jim Carrey as the Riddler, Nicole Kidman as Dr. Chase Meridian, blech. And all kinds of either up and comers or big name faces in the bigger roles. And it was 1995, if I didn't already say that. And yeah, so guys, what is our history with Batman Forever? Well, first of all, John, do you have any fun facts about this film, sir?
Give me a second. What did I do with my notes on that one? Don't tell me.
There were facts, all right, but none of them fun.
Okay, so here is the fun facts I found, and I stole these from IMDb because it was just quicker. But Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones did not get along together. They hated, or Tommy Lee Jones specifically hated Jim Carrey and all the films that he had been in prior to this.
Yeah, it's a well-known fact. Yeah, Tommy Lee Jones can buzz off.
Yeah. And I love Tommy Lee Jones, but I hate that he hated Jim Carrey because I love both of them.
He wasn't fair to Jim Carrey, man. Jim Carrey was. I mean, like I have heard that he can be quite the diva to work with, from multiple sources for multiple movies, but I still think he's a good guy and a great comedic actor. Sorry. Continue.
They apparently had to pay Billy D. Williams off because he had Billy D. Williams had accepted the role of Harvey Dent with the expectation of serving a 2-film role, according to IMDb, and that he would be cast as Two-Face when it came about. But they had to buy him out of that because they wanted Tommy Lee Jones to be cast as him so bad.
And we all know how that worked out.
Not a very good convincing Two-Face.
I mean, I'll give him props for trying to stay committed to his horrible vision of the character, but it was still a horrible vision of the character.
Then you have, Tim Burton was originally planning to use the same villains in this film if he directed it. They considered somebody named Mickey Dolenz. I'm not familiar with him.
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, after Burton dropped out, Robin Williams was offered the role again, which is kind of weird.
Well, he did want to play the Riddler. I forget. I heard why he ended up turning it down. Oh, I think he turned it down because Michael Keaton had been asking for so much money, and his agents tried the same thing. And he even told them, "Hey, we probably shouldn't ask for this much." And his agents assured him, "Hey, nobody in town can do what you do." Well, guess again, Jim Carrey couldn't for a lot less, so they went with Jim Carrey instead.
And here's my last fun fact, and this one's kind of funny. Jim Carrey's original idea was to shave a question mark into his scalp, but it had to be scratched due that he was due in court to finalize a divorce.
That's awesome. What a tangled web we weave. Oh, I love it. All right, well now, guys, what is our history with this very colorful movie? Cody, let's not break precedent here. You first, sir. What is your history with Batman Forever?
Batman Forever is kind of one that fell between the cracks for me. I remember seeing it, but I remember when I first heard that Jim Carrey was in the movie, I was kind of excited because my brain was just like, "Oh, the guy from Pet Detective. Oh, he's funny. I like funny people." But I remember watching it and being kind of underwhelmed by both him and Tommy Lee Jones's performance. And I don't know, the whole movie, it just felt like it felt less to me than the Batman '89 film. And it was also the first time that I realized a different actor could be hired to play the same character. I was like, that's not the same guy.
Oh yeah. Oh, as a kid, nothing bothered me more than seeing a different face than what I was used to.
Yeah.
Or even worse, hearing a different voice in a cartoon I liked.
Oh yeah, the voice thing bugged me more than the face.
Yeah.
But it was, I didn't hate it as a kid. And, I feel like more than anything, they had the bones of what could have been a really solid Batman film, but they just really dropped the ball and did not take it seriously enough. Because like I said, there's like the bones of a really good Batman film here, and it never quite gets there.
I encourage you, Cody, and you, John, and all of our listeners, if ever you guys have an hour and 40 minutes to kill, go to Channel Awesome on YouTube, and they have a full readout of a fan-written script. The video is called What If Tim Burton Directed Batman Forever, and it's a fan-written script based loosely off of Tim Burton's unwritten ideas for Part 3, along with what they called the good parts of Joel Schumacher's Part 3, and also off of a new comic book series coming out called Batman '89. It is a terrific take on what Part 3 could have been, with the part of the Riddler being specifically written for Robin Williams. I heard it today, guys. It was worth the hour and 40-minute listen. Definitely check it out. Not sponsored. I do not know those guys whatsoever. I'm just telling you as a fanboy. Great listen.
We don't get sponsored deals.
Yeah, we're not nearly important enough to be sponsored.
But we're not.
It also might have something to do with the fact that we are sponsored by Rain Shadow.
That's not to say we won't sell out if we're approached.
Yeah, we're gonna sell out so fast if we're approached. I don't give a crap. I'm gonna sell the frick out. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
I don't care about principles and moral fortitude. I want money.
Raid Shadow Legends.
Yep.
Read Shadow Money.
All right.
Sponsored by G Fuel.
I freaking forgot where we were.
We were about to start the first question of Batman Forever.
But wait, did you go over your history with it yet?
Oh, I did not give you my history. Oh.
All right. So, John, give us your history.
And unfortunately, it was the first Batman movie I remember going to see as a kid. At the time, I thought it was great. I was like Cody. I was naive into thinking Jim Carrey could carry the movie. And at the time, I did not, I hadn't really established the fact that it was going to be a different Batman than Michael Keaton. And I don't think I really cared at the time. I was like, ooh, Ace Ventura is going to be in it. So I naively thought it was going to be a good film. And, as a kid for a little bit, I thought it was until I became a teenager and someone brought the DVD over to my house and we watched it again. I'm like, wow, I just wasted like an hour and 40 minutes, 2 hours, whatever it was to watch this movie.
Oh, I think we've all had that realization with films. We're just like, oh, this is a good film, right? I saw this when I was like
It was great as a kid.
7, and it was great. It was like the greatest film ever. And then you go back and you watch, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah. And it's like the action figures were great. The cars look great. They're selling to me. I'm a kid. That's great.
I like stuff made for me.
Yeah. I'm kind of upset. I cannot find my McDonald's cup.
Oh,
I'm so upset about that one because I have the Batman one somewhere, and I think my sister may have threw it out when she's cleaning out the house.
like the glass cups?
Yeah, you remember those? Because it had.
Yeah, man. We used to have a collection ourselves, although I don't know what happened to them.
It was for Batman Forever, right? It wasn't for the other
I'm pretty
one.
sure it was Batman Forever, yes.
Yeah, but I had the Batman one somewhere, and I cannot find it.
But yeah, I understand. Like I said, I wish it was a better film because it was set up to be.
The commercialism played a part in it, a lot of them hurting the
Okay.
film.
Oh, absolutely. Like you could tell that this was really the movie when like they really wanted to start selling action figures along with it. Like they wanted to do that with all of them, but they really wanted to start selling action figures with this new Batman guys. Have you seen the return on these Star Wars toys?
Yeah. I had several of them. I don't think I had any of the vehicles, but I know I had at least 2 or 3 different Batmans that did different functions that were not featured in the film.
Oh, I thought I had my microphone on mute. That means everybody heard me open my door. Oh, well.
Yeah, we did. We heard a loud grunting sound.
Yeah, you probably... Who knows? Yeah, I had to get up and get a cough drop. I got a bad cough.
It's okay. But whenever you get a chance, look up the McDonald's Batman cups for Batman Forever.
I actually have looked those up, and they're really cool.
They're worth every bit of money you paid for it in the 90s. Not really.
Well, my history with this film is, I'm sorry to say, it was the first of this series that I ever saw. I touched on why I saw it in our Mask of Phantasm episode last year, where, now I did say that it was my first Batman film I'd ever seen. That is not true. The first Batman film I've ever seen all the way through was Batman Begins, but it was shortly followed up by this film. It was the first Batman film that I ever owned. I bought a VHS copy from either a Ross or a Goodwill, and so excited to see Jim Carrey play a bad guy, much like you, Cody, and just being so confused watching this over the top caricature of a performance, and really I'm like, well, people liked this, right? Like I was under the impression that everybody liked this movie, so I was trying to force myself to believe that I liked it too, and probably watched it all the way through 3 times, and ended up forgetting that I owned it. And I, to this day, am not even sure what happened to that VHS copy, but it's not here anymore, and I don't miss it. But anyway, that being said, guys, this film left the Batman fans very divided because they're used to the Tim Burton dark stuff. They are aware, obviously, that he's backed out, but some loved it, some hated it. I'd say more hated it than those who loved it. One critic, whose name I don't know, said that when he saw it, he liked it, but 10 minutes after he saw it, he cared less about it. 20 minutes, even less. 2 days, even less than that. And so yeah, it's kind of like comparing it to a roller coaster where you ride it once, it was fun, and then you're done with it. So that being said, guys, let's talk about what we think worked. John?
Uh, I guess, Jim Carrey didn't do a bad job. I mean, he was funny, which is kind of what I wanted as a kid. Um, Chris O'Donnell as Robin wasn't a bad casting choice. I mean, he was pretty cool.
He wasn't. He wasn't. I'll give it that.
But yeah, I can't find a lot that I enjoy in this movie. I mean, I know it was the first one I remember seeing as a kid, but it's not something I go back to watch often.
Yeah. How about you, Cody? What do you think worked?
I didn't think Val Kilmer did a bad job as Batman. You know, I think he did a decent job. And again, Chris O'Donnell as Robin was decent. Uh, you know, and that's about it. The performances were good. And once again, like it just kills me because like I know I keep bringing this up, but there's just the bones of a really good story here. And I felt like that is both a positive and a negative. Um, because you could see where a good idea could come from, and they just didn't pull it off. But I would say again, like I already said, Val Kilmer and Chris O'Donnell were probably the best parts of the film.
Yeah. Well, it was extremely sharp right turn from the first two films' tonnage. The way I look at it, I sat down, tried to think long and hard if I thought anything about this film worked. And excuse me, it got its moments where you laughed, moments where the action got kind of entrancing, and just the overall 90s cheese warmed the old nostalgic part of my heart. But aside from that, nothing worked for me. I hate to be that negative, but nothing worked about this movie. Could have been worse, but that doesn't mean it was good. It just means it wasn't as bad as it could have been, is the way I look at it. That being said, guys, it's kind of an obvious answer here, but what do we think didn't work?
There was a lot that didn't work. I love Tommy Lee Jones for his action and thriller roles, but especially for U.S. Marshals and The Fugitive. But I don't like him as Two-Face. He was not good, and the obvious animosity between him and Jim Carrey can be seen in the way they act together. They weren't good for the role. And if you don't have good villains, you don't have a good movie. I don't really like Val Kilmer as Batman. I don't think they established him too well. I think he was a weirder choice for Batman, but that's just me. I mean, I don't know. I just my verdict's out on for me for that one, and I still to this day find it hard to follow the story of the movie.
Yeah. And Cody?
So there is a lot wrong with this film. Like The lady, Nicole Kidman, the obvious love interest, is essentially there to be a love interest. Like they try to give her an interesting backstory of her being like, she a psychiatrist or like a behavioral analysis that's supposed to be helping hunt down Harvey Dent.
What she is a thirsty Batman groupie.
Yeah, but all she wants is to jump Batman's bones. That is her entire motivation. And it kills me. It kills me because you had like that could have been interesting, having this person working alongside Batman, trying to track this criminal down, and slowly over time, because she's already used to picking up on psychological patterns and everything, she starts narrowing in and hemming in who Batman could actually be while she's working together with him to catch Two-Face and the Riddler. But, what do I know? Hot girl needs to be sexy, so.
Yeah.
And then Two-Face, like, I feel like Tommy Lee Jones could have done a good job as Two-Face because he's a really good actor and he's a really good performer, but he was given garbage material. And the scene that kills me in that film is when he is getting a bunch of goons to fight Batman and he's tossing his coin and the coin keeps coming up to not kill Batman. And so what does he do? He keeps flipping until he gets the result he wants,
Yeah.
which is just so against everything Two-Face is in the comics. If that was the Two-Face from the comics, the minute the coin landed on "Don't kill Batman," that would have been the end of it. He'd be like, "All right, well, you guys figure it out. I'm not involving myself in this. The coin is spoken," and he left. He never questioned the coin. That's kind of like his big thing. He lives his life by this thing, and so that whole scene, it irks me. And the Riddler, like I feel like they really wanted the Riddler to be just a slightly less murderous version of the Joker. Like they really wanted Jim Carrey to be the Joker, but they had already killed the Joker in the first film, so they couldn't do it. So they got him as a villain for the Riddler, and they're just like, oh, let's just make the Riddler the Joker. It's easy. It's just what we do. Except that's not even remotely the Riddler's character.
Yeah.
Did they? I don't remember. Did they take the time to establish Two-Face's story in this movie at all?
They take like 2 or 3 minutes. It's like a flashback in a newsreel where they show him like in a court case, and then and you don't even really hear any of the court proceedings. You just see him talking, and then he walks over and someone splashes acid on his face, and ooga booga, he's evil now. Which again is just a huge disservice to Harvey Dent as a character.
And that's how Robert became Two-Face.
Yeah, I'm already fighting a cough.
That's his supervillain origin story.
It cut off one side of oxygen to my face. Yeah.
Well, no, you choked out and fell forward and hit the complete. What is it? Left side of his face that's messed up.
Yeah, the left side.
Yeah.
All right. Woo. All right, Cody, continue with what you were saying.
Oh, no, you're fine. My only other critique is like the Riddler's plan. Like, it's really zany and out there, but also like he has like a laser beam and like this huge, crazy sci-fi turbine generator that's gonna suck everybody's brain out. I just sure that's crazy, but it also raises a ton of questions. How did he build that? With what budget? With what minions? Like, where? How? Explain this to me. And also, he has laser beams. He can invent laser beams, but he introduces Bruce Wayne to essentially like broadcasting the television directly into your brain. This is what he introduces to the billionaire tech genius Bruce Wayne, and he can invent laser beams. I feel like I need an explanation for why he just didn't introduce the laser beam.
Yeah, for real, right?
Yeah. So there's that. But it's just silliness. I feel like this whole film, like there's just a lot of silliness. Like it like started to backslide towards like the 60s Adam West era, like super silly, ridiculous planned villains who always acted like they were in on a party joke that no one else knew, and we're just having way too much fun being bad guys.
Now, John, did you already say what you thought didn't work?
Yes.
All right, yeah, I forgot at this point. Sorry. All right. So what I thought didn't work was all of it. Like, if you want to just turn your brain off and have something wacky playing in the back that requires no thought or actual involvement, this is the movie for you. But if you're a Batman fan, wanting a Batman story, this is not the film for you. Like, if you want Spy Kids with a bigger budget, watch this movie. I mean, I really can't emphasize enough how cheesy Dr. Meridian's interest, shall I say, on this PG podcast was for Batman. Like, it wasn't like no subtlety, no growth, just he swings in and her mouth never closes after that. Her mouth has stayed open the entire movie every time she looks at Batman. You have Tommy Lee Jones playing. I felt like he and Jim Carrey both were just told to, hey, channel the Joker in some fashion. They both just seemed like those, manic, flamboyant psychos that those traits that are supposed to belong to the Joker is all I got from them. Val Kilmer is just the wrong choice for Batman. Yeah, just overall, just a really, really crappy movie. Again, I think the one reason why I might enjoy it is just to enjoy some 90s camp. But that's about it.
90's guilty pleasure.
Yep. Well, I wouldn't call it a guilty pleasure. More, I'm just guilty. like I walk around like, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I watched it and I enjoyed it. But so guys, what do we think could have been done better with this film? Like, obviously, so much could be done better. What do we think is a big, big thing that really, like, even if everything else, comparatively speaking, stayed the same, what one big thing do we think could have helped this film be a lot better than it was, or even a little better than it was?
I got 2 words for you. Bat nipples.
Yeah.
They need
Why?
to be bigger, bolder, and sharper.
Amen, brother. Amen. How about you, Cody? Are you down with the nips?
Just see the sequence. Just imagine the sequence where Batman's like tied to a table, classic James Bond trap or whatever, and the straps are just like across his chest, and he just like presses a button on a hidden compartment on his glove, and like 2 sharp blades fire at the strap.
Oh my God.
I
Oh
mean,
my
they put
God.
them on the suit. Why not use them, right?
That's it.
Yep.
I feel like, I don't know, they could have really, the whole film could benefit from just being taken down like a couple notches. Like everybody in that film is like at like 11. And really, everybody in that film probably could have just come on down, varying levels from like a 7 to like a 5, right? Everything was just like manic. Manic is the best way I could describe every
Really? Yeah.
character in that film is manic. Like it's just crazy. And I was just like, everybody just really needs to just calm down. Yeah, if I could only change one thing, I would just be like, everybody just needs to tune their performances down a little bit. And we're not doing the weird CG power of brain sucking. We'll still do the brain sucking if you guys really want, but we need to come up with something that makes more sense than the crazy tower. But honestly, I feel like just taking all the characters, the bones of what they had, and just build a completely different story out of it is the only way this film could actually genuinely improve.
Yeah, frankly, my piece of advice is get rid of Joel. I mean, I liked his work in Phantom of the Opera. I think that was a really good film adaptation of a stage play. And, like a lot of folks won't agree, but I liked it a lot. But aside from that, I can't think of one movie he's been involved with, directly or indirectly, that I own or care about. And like I looked him up, his work isn't that extensive. In fact, a lot of what he has done has been extremely controversial and hated by some folks. I think he did like one good project that earned him like, some street cred, but aside from that, just nothing. So, yeah, I think get rid of him, get some different writers, and don't try to shine it up for families in the way you try to. I mean, sure, don't. I get why, say, don't have a death scene like the Penguins. Don't have people, biting off noses, but don't try to polish it up with that knee-jerk reaction that was so apparent in the entire film's presentation. So, yeah.
I still stand by my answer.
I stand by it too. The
I
point,
think we all stand by it.
yeah. Well, guys, let's go ahead and rate this bad boy. Cody, how do you rate this film, sir? 1 out of 10.
I feel like it is a 5. I'll give it a 5.8. It's not quite a 6.
It's generous.
Given what's coming, it is much better. It's not as good as Batman Returns, and it's definitely not as good as Batman '89. But like you said, you could turn your brain off and you could enjoy the film for the silly little piece of 90's camp that it is. You can at least do that. You can at least do the basic qualifier of a film, which is entertain you for however long the film lasts.
Yeah.
Like it at least does that. And so that at least pulls it above the five rating, because any film that falls below a 5, I feel like fails the very fundamentals of being a film, which includes just being even remotely entertaining.
That's fair. That's fair. And John,
4.5.
explanation, sir?
I mean, if you watch the movie, I mean, there ain't a lot to say about it, brother.
It's funny because what I have by my rating is just for obvious reasons. Like you and I are right on point with that.
Yeah. Because I mean, maybe you watch it like if you're bored and you don't have the internet and you're watching cable TV and it's been formatted for public television where it's been shortened a little bit and sped up through a couple parts. Maybe it's okay to watch, but otherwise, it's not something you really want to brag about owning.
Yeah, yeah, for real. All right, yeah, I'm gonna be meaner than both y'all and give it a 3 out of 10. I mean, truly, like the only positive thing that I can give it, and I mean this with all seriousness, is while their portrayals of the characters were terrible, they all did seem very committed. So at least they were trying. It also, because these guys are great actors, all of them are. But what they were given to work with was crap, and they probably all knew it. But they're like, you know what? I'm a serious actor, and this is Batman, and I'm still gonna give it my all. So hats off to them, and that's mostly why I gave it a 3. If they weren't even, committed, and you could see the protest in their performance, I would have given it a 1. But they tried their best, God bless them. So, So that being said, John, you said 4, Cody, you said 5, and I said 3. I forgot the point system, so I'm just going to give it an extra point too. So it gets 13 out of 30, guys. That's a pretty bad rating. All right, well, that's going to take us into, guys, our very last topic / film of the evening. We're on to the 1997 number 4. I don't know what the word is for that. You say sequel, threequel, fourquel, which is Batman. Yeah, which is Batman and Robin. Once again, directed by Joel Schumacher, and I don't have up on here who wrote it, but I'm sure whoever did should be fired. Starring George Clooney has signed on now as Batman, and Chris O'Donnell as Dick Grayson, aka Robin. We have Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy, the great Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, and Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl. Now, Cody, before John gives us his fun facts, Well, actually, John, give us your fun facts first, and if they're not what Cody told me during the break, Cody, I'd love for you to chime in as well once John is done.
Uh, Apparently, Chris O'Donnell and Schwarzenegger never actually worked together the entire time of the filming.
That's
They're in,
interesting.
they're in scenes together, but the timing of the when they actually did their parts, they never actually worked together. So that's kind of weird.
Went to
Of all that
scheduling,
stuff,
or
yeah, scheduling. They just never actually worked on set with each other, other than the way the movie made it look like they were.
wow.
Uh, Alicia Silverstone. I was looking at a picture of her. She has a really big jaw. Um, but you know, I
Not
really,
nice, John.
yeah. But I liked her from the movie Clueless. I like Clueless as a movie. But she had a lot of issues with people complaining about her weight or rumors of her weight. Anyway, is what they said because they were trying to create it. Well, let me try to read the information here. Drawing an image of a corset for her to wear to try to keep a different shape. And they said that her weight fluctuated. That's why they have that issue. I mean, that's kind of okay, whatever. I mean, actresses run into that issue. I think it was funny that George Clooney peed in the bat suit pretty frequently.
I did not know that. I'm curious why he did that.
It was a lot of time to remove his bat suit because it was intricately made and a lot of it was one piece.
It's also going to be a lot of time to apply ointment to the rash, brother.
Yep.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of another good one here. There was another one. It used CGI stunt work for the first time, which I think is kind of laughable because the CGI work and it's pretty ridiculous. And of all the things, this should be known to everybody, despite the movie being trash, the soundtrack won a Grammy.
Really?
Yep.
I'm not too familiar with it. I gotta listen to it now. All right, Cody, I know you brought up the issue of Alicia Silverstone being mocked for her weight. What else did you tell me again about the movie?
The other thing was that Patrick Stewart was in for the running as Mr. Freeze in Batman and Robin. He just got muscled out by Arnold Schwarzenegger because the studio basically thought that he was a bigger name and it would draw in the action crowd because they would love to see Schwarzenegger in the role. So that would have been I would actually have loved to have seen Patrick Stewart as Mr. Freeze. I think that would have been brilliant, but we got what we got.
Yeah, I had brought up the concern I'd made about him getting Arnold's crappy lines, and you had said something about how Arnold pushed for all of the ice puns he used, right?
He may not have pushed for all of them, but he did push for more basically Schwarzeneggerisms, like the one-liners that he's known for in all his films. I mean, when we think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, what do we think of? I'll be back. It's not a tumor. All these one-liners.
Respectable
so
job, Cody. By the way,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so, he kind of built his brand around that, especially at the time. And so, I'm trying to look up the source, but I can't find it. But it is implied that he really pushed for more one-liners than what was initially in the script for Mr. Freeze.
And we got ice puns like every 5 minutes with him. All right, so here's my next question. What was y'all's favorite ice pun that Mr. Freeze told in that movie?
Chill.
Yeah, I was going to say chill too. How about you, Cody?
You want to know what killed the dinosaurs?
No! No, not that one. That's like the worst one. Cody, you disappointed me, sir.
No, it's just the delivery. The delivery is what sold it for me. It was just, my gosh, it was so ridiculous and ham-fisted. It was so silly. To this day, that is what I think of whenever people talk about the ice puns. Sure, everyone talks about everybody chew, but it's just, that one got me. Like I laughed.
It was pretty funny. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and begin our questions for this film. What do we think worked, John?
I have 2 words for you. Bat nipples.
Bat nipples. We're going all in on the bat nipples.
At least it wasn't the crotch.
The bat
Yeah,
crotch. Yeah, there we go.
yeah. I mean, I have nothing else to say. Bat nipple. That is my final answer.
I gotta make you a flag, John, with bat nipples on it.
They were bigger, sharper, and bolder. You can look it up and compare them.
Oh my God. In all seriousness, do you think anything worked in this film at all?
I told you that was my final answer.
All right, gotcha. Cody, what about you, sir? And you can't say bat nipples. John already beat you to it.
George Clooney has the right chin to wear the Batman outfit because, as we all know, the chin makes it with that suit. If you've got a little shrivelly like chin, the bat suit just doesn't flow. So if nothing else, George Clooney's chin did its job. It did it well.
You see, I've actually got a serious answer. I feel like I feel like I failed right now.
Well, hey,
No, you haven't failed. If you have a serious answer, state it. I would love to hear it.
Okay.
I would at least say that George Clooney, from before seeing the movie, if you said that he was cast for a role like that, you would say, well, he kind of fits Bruce Wayne, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. He has like the Playboy swagger for Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, he does. The thing is that George Clooney is just so dynamic of an actor already that the thing is, I like how with other Bruce Waynes, the actors, they had made names for themselves, but they were still more of a character actor in a sense, whereas George Clooney, you watch him, you're like, hey, look, it's George Clooney. And, and like, when you have that, like, when you are synonymous with yourself, I feel like that takes away from you believing it's Batman because you're so entranced with, hey, it's George Clooney. So, like, I feel like he was too big to be Batman, in my opinion. But anyway, so my serious answer is I actually was kind of involved with Mr. Freeze's story. Not saying that, Schwarzenegger should get an award for his acting because, let's face it, Schwarzenegger can't act. Like, his charm draws us in, but Schwarzenegger can't act. But the story itself of Mr. Freeze and Schwarzenegger, who you could tell was clearly having a good time playing this character, I actually felt sorry for the character trying to, I felt my heart break when he thought his wife had died. I felt the tear of, yes, he's a villain, but I felt myself struggling with, but I also want to see him complete his research to save his wife's life. I actually found the portrayal of his story to be quite good. And I thought it wasn't, once again, I use this word a lot, but I found it involving. So I feel like his story was told right. That's what I feel like worked for this film.
I mean, Mr. Freeze's story is already compelling as it is, and they just kind of basically use what it was.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Yep. But for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, they essentially copy and pasted the animated series origin story, which is just, you can tell it's a really effective with the fact that they transposed it into this movie that is terrible. But the story of Mr. Freeze, like origin, like the setup, like the bare bones story of how this character became Mr. Freeze is still affecting because the foundations of it are so solid. They're so good. So,
Yeah.
it's a testament to like the character, I suppose.
Yeah. And I will give Schwarzenegger, he really did seem like he was enjoying his time playing the character. He, used all of he once again did the best he could, God bless him, trying to make Mr. Freeze come to life, and I thought he did an okay job with it.
About as good as he could with a role like that.
Yeah, well, as good as he could with any other character. I think his best performance was actually Julius in Twins, because like I really bought that he was this clueless Hercules-esque person from the island who just had no idea, just the green as heck when it came to life, common sense. He did a great job with that, but like all the rest is just Arnold being Arnold. But anyway, not getting too off topic here. All right, guys, what do we think could have been improved with this movie?
I mean, in my opinion, the only thing you could do to improve it was not make it.
I had water in my mouth, John.
I really don't want to sit here and nitpick how you fix it. I mean, you just shouldn't have made this movie. It was bad. It was a cramped movie with too many people in it that didn't really do a good job in their roles.
Yeah.
And even though we liked Chris O'Donnell as Robin originally, he was kind of just blown away by the amount of stupidity that was been added to this film. Poison Ivy was kind of pointless. Bane just shows up. I mean, good for him. Starting out the worst portrayal of Bane ever.
It really was.
And just poor Alicia Silverstone never had a chance because there's just too many people in this movie.
Yeah.
And it was campy as all get out.
Yeah. It was, it honestly gave me Space Jam vibes, but at least Space Jam was fun to watch. I didn't even have fun watching this movie.
Yeah, I definitely did not.
What I just realized was that I forgot to ask, what we think didn't work. I think John gave his answer pretty good, so that's that. Cody, what do you think didn't work in the film, sir?
Oh, the film?
Yes, the film.
The fact that they put this out in the theaters.
Like, to say nothing of the fact that I think that film actually did damage to Bane's character as a whole, because every time he showed up in other media after that, he was a giant, dumb jock meathead. When in the comics, Bane is one of the most dangerous characters in Batman's rogues gallery because he's really, really smart. He's really smart. And so the fact that he's also he is strong without the use of venom. Like, he's just a really physically fit, built like a tank human being. And then to add on top of that, he has the steroid that gives him super strength. He is incredibly dangerous. And they play him like a giant muscle-bound joke in this movie.
Yeah.
And it did him such a disservice. Poison Ivy was okay, I guess. I don't know. There's just
They could have put an actual redhead actress to play Poison
they
Ivy.
could have gotten an actual. They could have gotten an actual ginger, at least. But whatever, I guess. And
Cody, I didn't get the context of your voice going Australian or British, whatever you just did.
oh, I just do that sometimes when I refer to gingers.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Irish.
What? Irish.
Oh, right, okay.
He's making fun of your accents, Cody.
I just wasn't sure. I just wasn't sure where it, like what the context was.
Cody, that racism coming out again. He hates Irish.
I know.
Hey, listen. That being said, I'm Scottish. We don't like Irish people. Okay,
I
I'm half Scottish, half German, so something's in me. Anyway.
And also, just real quick, one final aside for me. Batgirl being related to Alfred was just absolutely silly. They already had a connection for Batman in Jim Gordon, a character who they completely dropped for this entire movie series, despite his importance. So I felt like that was kind of really silly.
They included him in the first Batman movie, but his role was so stupid, and the actor who played him made him seem bumbling.
Yeah,
he did. Yeah, you're right.
he seemed really ineffective, which again is not accurate. Jim Gordon is like not just the last good cop in Gotham, he's a really good cop. So, that's why Batman respects him so much.
Yeah. So to kind of go along with y'all, yeah, what didn't work was everything. I think what I really couldn't get over was the dialogue. I mean, it was some of the worst dialogue as far as these films are concerned. The constant use of ice puns, Batman pulling out his Bat credit card, which expires never, to try to buy poison ivy because that's not creepy at all. Um,
That's soliciting. That's a crime,
yeah,
Batman.
that's called prostitution. Yeah, or is that called human trafficking? I'm not sure which one that falls under the category of.
I feel prostitution. She's
Yeah,
definitely going to get something out of it for sure.
yeah, right. And yeah, just overall everything about the film. I mean, like yeah, like it was in scenes visually stunning, but so what? I mean, a nuclear explosion is visually stunning. You don't see me running toward one of those things anytime soon. So yeah,
What visually stunning scene are you referring to? The one where they're floating out of the air,
or well, his
surfing?
the the fight scene in the end with Mr. Freeze. Trying to think back of. Oh Lord, I just remember several scenes. I'm like, well, you know, this looks good anyway. I can't offhand remember which ones I'm talking about, but I remember like in several scenes, I'm like, yeah, the visuals are good. And yeah, but aside from that, yeah, everything sucked about this movie. Far worse than Batman Forever ever did. John, you already answered both questions about what could be fixed and what didn't work. So, Cody, what do you think could be fixed about this film, sir? Name one thing that you would have liked to have seen done a lot better. One thing.
Uh, no, don't just take. So one thing you could do, it was doing little to no effort for the film, is just take Bane out of the film entirely. Just remove Bane. I mean, it's a small thing, it's a simple thing. It's like that's it, but removing Bane would at least not have damaged a really good comic book character, and you wouldn't have had to shoehorn in a third villain. Poison Ivy, she creates mutant plants all the time. They could have just fought a mutant plant monster as part of the third act to defeat her. I don't understand why they felt the need to add Bane in there at the last minute.
Yeah.
Especially considering Mr. Freeze is already like a humanoid imposing physical force that they had to fight. So they kind of had their like human muscle covered. So at this point with Poison Ivy, just lean all the way into the sci-fi horror and make it like a plant monster.
They did it for the toys, Cody.
I know they did it for the toys, and I'm asking them to please not do it for the toys and just make a plant monster instead. You get a
Yeah.
toy set with a plant monster.
You can make little animatronic plant monster toys, yeah. 'Cause that was a
Exactly.
90's thing.
Little plant monster toys that could run around and eat Batman or shoot slime out of its mouth. It seemed to be popular at the time. You could have done a bunch of things as opposed to ruin a perfectly good comic book character.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's let's go ahead and rate this film with, I'm sure, completely unpredictable outcomes here. 1 out of 10, Cody.
1 out of 10. Are you telling me I should rate it 1 out of 10?
Yes.
He's asking, do you have a lower number?
I could get into negative numbers, but no, honestly, I would give this a 3 out of 10. It's not a great film. It falls short, but I mean, like I think I've said before with some films, like it's not the worst thing that exists. It is not Manos and the Hands of Fate. You know, it's just it at least clearly has a production budget. It at least clearly has a cinematographer. You know, other than that, it fails in almost every other regard. It just does not do service to any of the characters, any of the story. and it is by far the worst Batmobile design ever of all time. That Batmobile was so ridiculous.
I
I
forgot what it looked like.
It looks like the peak height of 90's cheese
Oh,
movie excess.
It was
there it
way
is.
overboard.
There it is.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Man,
yeah,
that
there it
is
is.
that is some
Yeah,
Space Jam
look
vibes,
at that.
man.
Would you look at that? Would you just look at it?
Man, that is bad. That's like, yeah, wow. Wow. That's the 90's for you. We never said they were perfect. We just said they were better than this.
We never said they were perfect. We never said much about them at all.
I mean, don't get me wrong, you got a lot of
Um,
great stuff from that era, but you also got stuff like this.
you got some stuff like that, yeah. So I'm very comfortable with my 3 out of 10. I feel that is suitably low, and while also not completely disparaging the fact that people worked on this and put forth some kind of effort.
Yeah, effort was made. Effort was also made, during the Holocaust. That it doesn't mean effort should have been made. And John,
I'm going to give it a 2 because it's a film. Um, yeah, I mean, it could have been worse. I mean, it was definitely not a independent student film that was in like a Sundance festival that was only in like French, and it ended abruptly for no reason. So, I mean, it's got
Yeah.
that going for it. So, the plot might be somewhat cohesive, but you definitely don't want to say you like the film or show it to anybody that you love.
Yep. I will also give it a 2 because the only thing I liked about it was that they did portray Freeze's story right. And yes, that does consist of them copying and pasting it, but you can still copy and paste something and mess it up. I still found that to be a nice, touching story, but that's not enough to even give it a 3 because everything else was crap. So we have 2, 2, and 3 for a total of 7 out of 30 for Batman and Robin. Great job, Schumacher. Great job. Well, now, guys, it's time to rate the overall franchise from 89 to Batman and Robin. Y'all, how would we rate it 1 out of 10, Cody?
Ooh, ah, ooh, ee. Um, Piling everything in, I feel like it falls. Honestly, it falls for me right at a 5. Like Batman 89 is stellar, but like even with our reviews, even with the ones we actually liked, there is a clear and steady decline as they go on. Um, they were never able to quite reach the heights of Batman 89, uh, for one reason or another. And so one movie out of four that was genuinely exceptional and genuinely pretty good, uh, just does not balance it out to give it anything higher than average, um, for an entire series as a whole to me. I mean, if you press me, maybe I could be convinced to give it a 6, but I don't know. Maybe I'll up it. I'll put 5.5.
All right, fair enough. John?
5 because, I mean, the first 2 were good, but the last 2 really just cut it in half. I mean, really just killed it.
Yeah. This is the first time that my score outdoes y'all. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 because Tim Burton did do a great job at capturing the dark, gothic, noir feel of it. And even though, yes, he failed to deliver in the serious aspects, what he delivered in the comic book aspect was very true to Batman as a character and the overall story as a universe. I loved the no holds bar feel of Returns, and I loved how his approach at it being more character driven did work. So all the things that Burton got right and the few things that Forever didn't get wrong, it's enough to help me justify giving it a 6. So it's a 6 out of 10 for me, plus John's 5 is 11, plus Cody's 5. It's going to come to 16 out of 10, or excuse me, 16 out of 30 for the Batman franchise. Comparatively speaking, it's got a 50% approval rating from us, your 3 random millennials. So guys, we have finally achieved part 2 of our Batman miniseries. To our fans, you're welcome. Guys, I know we had several other topics, like we wanted to cover the Nolan films, we wanted to cover the 60s series, possibly even getting into what Robert Pattinson's been up to. Which one do we think we're going to cover next?
If you want, we could go all the way back to the 60s Adam West.
I like the idea of being more obscure and doing the 60s Batman. How about you, John?
Let's do the 60 Batman because I really need to get some more shark repellent in my bat belt.
All right. Well, guys, join us for our next installment, whenever that might be.
Robert,
I
got something for you.
All right, here we go.
Cody, I think you know the words too, don't you?
Depends on what you're talking about.
It's time for.
There used to be a graying tower. I can't sing like Seal though. You know what I mean? That's what hurts my feelings.
Are you about to sing "Kiss from a Rose"? There we go.
There you go.
Do a Seal impression. Great job, guys. All right. Well, anyway, join us again.
There is a formula you need to know before we leave. The worse the Batman movie, the better the soundtrack.
That does seem like the case. I won't lie. We got to remember that. Anyhow, guys, join us for our next installment. Once again, whenever that might be. It might be next year. It might be next month. Who the heck knows? But thank you all for listening, whether it's on our Spotify or our YouTube. If you're on our YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe if you like what you hear. We post new episodes hopefully every month, and we're still in the process of trying to find, some way to incorporate some YouTube exclusives, like a 5-minute film reviews, just something simple like that for y'all to sink your teeth into whenever you need a 3 random millennials fix, but don't have an hour and a half to listen. So, so if you're on our Spotify, check out our polls, which stay open for about a month or two, whatever question we think to ask you guys. And we guess that's it. Tune in next month, guys, to see what we have to offer y'all. So, yeah. I compare you to a kiss from a rose on a grave.